Hey guys, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming. Some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Drag, and today I'm coming at you another Let's Play episode of Changeling Tale, Grace's Path. So, let's see where we left off the last time. Ah, yes, we were having a little discussion with Alana about possibly luring Grace out before she, before her transformation progresses a little too far. But anyway, guys, sit back and enjoy for the next 20 minutes and let me entertain you, and let's just jump right into it. Voice in the tone. Alright. Maybe it frightens me when I start thinking over her words. How could I believe her? I know why. Because somewhere inside me, I want it to be true. Why? Why, Malcolm? Because it would make my life easier right now. There'd be no need for medical intervention, no praying, no confusion, no waiting around for answers. It's magic. That's all. The fairies at work. Is every bedtime story read to me as a youngster. Grace has been blessed by fey powers. It's uncontrollable. The woman the town whispers about calls a witch. Well, she's telling me such. How can I not believe it? Everything would be perfect for Grace. I could walk away from this unscathed. I would never have to see the McLeods again. It's what Grace asked for after all. Just let her be. I pushed down that thought, not wanting it to cross my mind right now. Perhaps ever again.
Malcolm, please try to see where I'm coming from. I don't want anything bad to come to you and the McLeods.
I know, Alana. You must understand how hard all this is to hear, to believe.
I do. And short of seeing it myself, I would not have thought it possible.
Arnold squeezes my hand and lets it go. Not until she releases it do I realize how tightly I've been holding on. I slide my hand into my pocket to try and get my bearings back. I choose to ask one more question against my better judgment. So if I stay away from Grace, she'll get better.
No. But she won't get any worse. It will only continue should you stay close. Malcolm,
She wears a pained expression. It reminds me of the look of resignation on Grace's face when I made known my intent to join the ranks.
I won't tell you what to do anymore. I want you to do what's best for the two of you. Whatever you both decide. Just be safe. Keep Grace safe, too.
She's letting her guard down further, and tears are slipping down her cheeks.
I need to go. Be well, Malcolm.
As I watch her fade into the crowd, instinct stops me from calling her back. To have her answer another one of a million questions in my head. My gut tells me I don't want those questions answered. It'll lead to 1 million more. Alana's hair blows in the breeze behind her. Once my teacher, now a friend, a protector. She couldn't possibly know what it feels like to be told to abandon a person with whom you have such a strong bond. Her harsh demeanor must frighten off every man she meets, but under that exterior is someone kind, caring, and devoted, even if I hate to admit it as much. Must she be so difficult to comprehend, to trust? Any love she may carry, all that she says she has for McLeods, it lays hidden, buried beneath layers of piety and aggression. All her charm covered by a sense of righteousness, weighed down by loads of eccentricities, she's a study in contradictions. Perhaps one day she will allow herself to be loved. I wonder how old she is. It's Hazel. I love Hazel. Hazel stands impatiently as I unload the last of today's market haul from her cart. There we are. Steady now. Let me get you unhitched. She's anything but steady as I unfasten her track. The bucket of fish rests just beneath her snout and she tries to pull away, snorting in disgust. Not a fan of seafood.
He's such a pretty horse.
The last buckle comes free and Hazel trots across the paddock to the stable, wanting as little to do with the bucket as possible. Can't say I blame you, lass. Reflecting on what I've gotten myself into, part of me wants to go and hide into the corner with her. Surely Hazel would be less demanding than Alana and the McLeod sisters. Hazel returns my gaze with a defiant, entitled look. Perhaps not after all. Still, her horsey needs seem much simpler than those of my neighbours right now. That reminds me. It's time to feed her daily grains. I feel her trowel from the stable store and beckon her over. Plotting a course. Your Highness, you got a banquet with the waits. Don't piss the damn horse off. She's gonna beat the shit out of you. Hazel snuffles at the grains. She then gives me her all too familiar huff of disapproval and wanders back to munch on some fresh shoots growing beside the table. Oh, come now. You acted like these were your favourites just yesterday. This horse, I swear. Sometimes I wonder if Hazel asserts her independence just because she can. My eyes fall back on the bucket of fish, and the irony is not lost on me. If anyone has an independent streak to rival Hazel's, it's Grace. Even I don't understand it under the circumstances. I have to respect it. I set aside my frustrating conversation with Alana to focus on my Lady of the Luck. Despite my best intentions, maybe going to see her again so soon isn't helpful after all. Well, Hazel, what'd make the better gift? My company and a few fish, or giving Grace some more time and space to herself? The horse is so expressive. Hazel doesn't respond, although I'm pretty sure I could guess her answer. Part of me agrees, if for no other reason than to wash my hands of this whole slippery mess. And again, I do care for Grace. I want to make sure she's well fed and looked after. The bucket of fish sits before me, both an offering and a conundrum. We'll find Grace. I'm going to get her. I can't just leave Grace adrift. No matter what Alana says, I'm still worried about her, and I need to see her again. Anyway, we'd have a hard time downing all these fish by ourselves, eh? I get the sense that Hazel would like nothing to do with my fish or my fishiest escapades. I oblige her, pick up the bucket, and head down to the loch on foot. I wonder what you're gonna encounter down there. Gonna be a fish girl, or gonna be a messy girl? The waters are calm and the shore is peaceful. Lovely time and place for a picnic, if not for my stomach being tied in knots. I tell myself there's no need to be nervous. Never mind Alana, never mind Grace's scales. Right now, I'm just here to enjoy a light meal and a beautiful day, and with good company. Company who presently seems to be missing in action. Could she possibly return home to her sister? After a moment, I laugh aloud at the thought. No, that's not the Grace I know. If anything, she may have taken to cruising the whole length of the loch by now. I set down the pail of fish, gathered some dry brush, and began making a small fire pit on the beach. If the smell of grilled fish doesn't attract her, maybe the smoke signals will. Interesting tactic there. The kindling has grown into a proper flame by the time I spy a pink dot out in the middle of the loch. It gets closer, and soon enough Grace's dress comes into focus. It's dripping wet as she steps out of the water, soggy as the girl wearing it.
You came.
I did, and I come bearing gifts. A trail of drips follow Grace as she comes ashore to inspect the pail. Up close, I can see that her condition has not improved.
Perch, you remembered.
Aye, fresh from the market.
That's dandy. Don't eat that fire there, Malcolm. I prefer my fish raw.
Raw? Ugh, Grace, it can't be good for you.
No problem. Not if they're really fresh. What's this?
She skips back into the surf and dives in head first. A few dozen yards out she emerges, flipping and turning nimbly. I can see how the fishmonger might mistake her for a sea nymph. It's incredible how acrobatic she's become. I'm charmed and perplexed. I guess that's life with her every day. Bending at the waist, she curves her body into the water like a porpoise. A few minutes later, she comes back up with a fish in her mouth.
Humph. Want some?
The fish still wriggles pathetically in her mouth. No, I've plenty here, thank you. Grace pulls her treat from her lips, dangles it above her gaping mouth, and lets it drop. My stomach drops as well.
So good, so salty, so fresh.
But that sounds like you're describing yourself, Grace. She comes to me, pinching my sides.
You devil.
I let her chase me around the fire until we tumble, adjacent to each other on the fine pebble beach. You know, that fire was never for the fish. I built it simply so that sparks could fly between us, Grace.
No puns.
She flicks a pebble at me, then smiles. This is my favorite way to see you, Grace. Happy.
You'd better get used to it then.
Seeing you?
Me being happy.
She gives me an odd look, starry-eyed with a hint of remorse.
You know what, Malcolm? Now that I've taught myself to fish.
You run the fishmonger out of business?
Ha! No, I was thinking I could actually do it. To survive out here. There's a fresh spring behind the castle ruins, and...
She looks at me pleadingly, as if not to question her.
I could live in the open waters forever. I have a real home now.
I let her words sink in. They don't surprise me, but that doesn't make them any easier to hear. So you won't go back.
I didn't say that.
But the idea is there. The seed planted. I can tell she's strongly considering it. Has she truly thought everything through? Grace, take it from me. There's more to survival than food and drink. Think about it when the winter squalls come in off the North Sea.
I can take shelter in the grotto. My body will keep me warm.
Your mouth hangs half open for a moment. Perhaps she has thought this through and changed tactics. What about your sister? What about the villagers?
Marion will be fine. She'll adapt just as I have. And the villagers, they'll never need to know.
But they already do. Grace, that room is in town. The fishmonger. He's seen a mermaid, he says.
Oh, I should love to meet her. I'm certain we'd be fast friends.
It's no laughing matter. If you're planning on staying out here, you must be careful. You don't know what's happening to you, and the last thing you need is unwanted attention.
From whom? An old fisherman pining for after imaginary sea nymphs?
Nay, from villagers, outsiders, people who would shun you, hunt you, try to capture you, humiliate you.
You sound fearful.
I am! She rolls her eyes.
You're overreacting. Who would believe a fisherman anyway? Please don't pay heed to sailor superstitions anymore. People don't pay heed to blah blah blah.
Grace looks wistfully out to the water, then to her scaly arms.
Even if they should.
Sigh to myself. Who, she asks, would believe a fisherman's superstitions? Alana would. Do I honestly tell a woman I'm attracted to that our school teacher says I am causing her to turn into a sea creature? I'd be made a fool, wouldn't I? Tell her. I suppose she has a right to know, and I have a right to commiserate with someone over Alana's peculiar brand of madness. Well, as it happens, I ran into Alana this morning.
Oh, how is the old bat?
Batty as ever. She said the craziest thing. I recount my encounter with our old schoolteacher at the market. Grace listens intently, her eyes getting wider with every word.
I believe it. Every single bit.
You do? I should have known these two would be in cahoots.
Aye. I wonder if she can tell me more.
I fear what will occur when Grace meets up with Alana and her mystical beliefs. Something cataclysmic, no doubt. Grace, she's as concerned about you as the rest of us. Doesn't it trouble you that the one woman who claims to know what's going on is also worried about your changes?
It's not just physical changes, Malcolm. I feel more comfortable in my own scales than I've ever felt before.
Your own skin, don't you mean?
Open your eyes. Scales, Malcolm. Webbing. Fins. A tail. Don't these bear a shred of truth to this fantasy?
What's that? A tail? Now? Grace blushes, as if she let slip the mention of a private part.
Just a nub of a thing, but I've a feeling it's just the beginning.
She gets up and bends over, giving me a view of her tail, and so much more. Oh, Grace, mind your propriety.
It's nothing you haven't seen. Besides, you asked. Go on. Feel it.
Poke the tail. Boop the tail. I swallow and press gently on the spongy protrusion. It suddenly pushes back. It emerges further. Oh. Oh no. I try to push it back in.
Ow! Malcolm, stop!
Oh no. Oh no. It inches out further, right before my eyes. She slaps my hand away and reaches back to rub her new appendage. It hurts?
It didn't, until you started poking at it.
My mind swirls. She's right. There are fewer and fewer ways that this could be passed off as a mere skin condition. But then, if Alana was right about these changes, does that mean there's also a grain of truth to her accusation? Do I really play a role in them? Grace, you need to know. Alana said that somehow I was the one prompting these changes. That if I continue seeing you, they'll only get worse, and the consequences of that
would be dire. It's always tell, and never listen.
Grace turns and sits back down, scowling.
Every single person has a place in our town, but not me. By fate or circumstance, I've never fit in.
I want to mention Jessie, but hold my tongue in fear that Grace will agree and use it as fuel to her fire, her dream to leave.
I'm finally getting the freedom I've always wanted. And Malcolm, if you're at all responsible for it, then, well, I guess I owe you an enormous debt of gratitude. I'll have to find a way to repay you.
Oh. Just wait, Grace. Think for a minute. What if Alana is right? We don't know what could happen. What if things become out of your control?
Everything's always been out of my control. For the first time, I feel like I'm holding the reins. Do I know what's next? No, not entirely. But trust me, Malcolm. I know what's best for me.
I believe that you believe that. Just try to see it from our perspective. Though. It's hard not to worry. I hear Alana's words echoing back in my head. You don't have to believe it for it to be true.
There's nothing to be afraid of. Deep down, I'm positive that this is meant to be.
Positive there's nothing fishy about it. Another pebble strikes me squarely in the cheek.
Malcolm, no puns.
Grace stands and brushes sand off her dress. She gestures towards the loch, a dreamy look in her eye.
There's an entirely different world under there. A world you and I have only caught glimpses of. The keys to that kingdom are finally within my grasp.
She holds out her hand, the webbing stretched taut between her dainty fingers.
Let me show you.
Take the plunge. Yes. Her hand outstretched before me. I finally realize I trust her, and I don't know for certain what's happening to Grace, but I must trust her. Come with me. She deserves that. I stand up and take her hand. In an instant, Grace and I are rocketing towards the water. She drags me behind her with a vice grip, and it's all I can do to keep my footing as we race into the pebbly shallows. I desperately try to slough off my coat. Wait, my I gargle and gasp for air, in shock from the sudden freezing immersion. Grace floats beside me, laughing, shaking her wet hair to and fro.
Oh, they'll dry it eventually. Come on.
Ooh. I've barely steadied my breathing when my arm is yanked again. She tows me out further and further from the shore, swimming with a strength belied by her slender frame. Each pump of her legs sends a splash over my head. Oh. Well, we're in that freezing water. Finally, her swimming slows to a stop. I don't know what she wanted to show me, but I'm starting to wonder if taking her hand was a bad idea. It's cold, and the steely waters of the loch stretch far now in every direction, especially down. I never paid much heed to the sailors' superstitions, but now, hand in hand with someone who looks more and more like she belongs in their tales, I can't help but wonder, what lies in the depths?
Now, Malcolm, take a deep breath.
Ooh, is this going to be like in the dream? It's all I can do to swallow a half gulp of air before I am pulled under. In an instant, the bright skies above us are obscured, warped by gentle ripples on the surface. The bright patch of light above us becomes smaller and smaller as Grace dives, pulling me deep underwater. I try to remain calm, knowing that she won't let harm come to me. Still, I can't help but think, this is why I'd never contemplated joining the Royal Navy. The pressure and darkness of the depths close in around me, and my stomach begins to feel tight. Grace slows her dive, then rights herself, bringing her face to mine. She wears a lopsided grin, clearly happy as a clam. Grace would be Grace, I reminded myself. I might even share her sentiment if I weren't on the verge of panic. The surface is much too far away for my liking. Ooh, here we go. Yep, it's that part. Grace silently wraps herself around me and presses her face into mine. A kiss. Here. Now. Not a kiss. My mouth locks into hers and sweet, sweet air rushes into my lungs. I've heard myths of courageous seamen rescuing their drowning brothers by breathing life into them in their moment of need, but this is something different, something supernatural. We breathe as one. And once my body calms, my other senses return to me, to sense nothingness. I become acutely aware of the silence, the emptiness, the uniform murk of the sea. Down here, there are no distractions, just Grace and me, floating in the void. I wonder if this is what she seeks, the cold solitude of a vast, empty sea. But we are not truly alone, I realize, as a minnow darts past at the corner of my vision. Ooh. Other large shapes start to appear. Have they come to investigate these two strange visitors to their domain? Or perhaps they were always here, simply revealing themselves once becoming accustomed to our presence. The sea creatures start to circle us. Fish, turtles, jellyfish, sharks. I should be afraid, but for some reason, with Grace wrapped tightly around me, I couldn't feel safer. This is her domain as much as theirs. Of that I no longer have any doubt. I return my eyes to hers as she looks knowingly back at me. This is what she wanted to show me. What Marion, what everyone has been missing. Magic. I close my eyes, press myself into her. She presses back, tightening her embrace, and our collaborative breathing transforms into a kiss. Just as fast as she gave me air to breathe, she takes my breath away. The taste of the salty sea on her tongue is delightful and welcome. I focus on the sensation and pressure of our mouths, engaging in their own instinctual movements of give and take. Oh, guys, I'm gonna pause it right here. Oh, this is getting spicy as hell. Hell yeah, setting sail. Hell yeah, he's setting sail for that. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to the next video. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.